Hi, this is Brad from Albion Fireworks. We're located in Albion, Wisconsin on the corner of Highway 51 and Albion Road. Today I'm going to be talking about bottle rockets and what kinds of tips you can take with you when you're going to buy bottle rockets, what the different sizes mean, and different tips and tricks as to lighting bottle rockets off. Okay, today's video is going to be about bottle rockets and the different size rockets that are available and kind of what the rockets those sizes mean. So right here I've got a good assortment of the particular rockets that we carry here at Albion Fireworks. Now we take these rockets here. These are kind of the traditional, what we would maybe say old school rockets. These ones have a triple whistle to them, and that would explain a little bit of why they're so rounded and they're not as squared off as maybe traditional bottle rockets that people are familiar with. The good thing about these types of rockets that are that have these rounded edges on them is you can shoot them into the water. You can shoot the other bottle rockets into the water as well. These ones tend to hold their charge a little bit better underwater, have a little bit more of a blip, so to speak, when they go off in the water. A lot of times people do this into lakes or things. It's kind of neat to watch them kind of fizz down into the water. But these are always fun for those kinds of things. Not to mention, they're your traditional standard bottle rockets. You can shoot these out of a bottle. You can shoot them out of a can. A lot of times it's a good idea maybe to put some weight in the bottom of a can or a bottle. That tends to help. Put a little bit of sand, maybe some rocks or anything in there. These bottle rockets here, the clustering bees, these have a little bit more of an effect. They're going to go a little bit higher than these bottle rockets here, and they're going to have a little bit different effect. Now these particular clustering bees, when they break, they're going to have a bunch of smaller fireworks that are going to basically whiz out all over in different directions, and that's where the bee effect is. But they're going to go a little bit higher, be a little bit bigger. And then we move into the 8-ounce rockets here. Now the 8-ounce rockets are wildly popular. They go pretty high, and they typically have a nice little color display. It's not going to be as big as a mortar, but it's going to be a color display where you're going to actually see some colors, different effects, that kind of thing. We move into, like, let's say this right here, speaking of effects, the smiley face rocket. Now, whenever you've got a rocket that's got a large ball on them, it's going to be very much like a mortar. And if you watch the video on mortars, you'll kind of understand a little bit about how those work in terms of their charge and the firework display that they show. Anytime you've got a balled up firework on a rocket, there's basically just a mortar on a stick. Now, the benefit to maybe rockets compared to mortars that some people like is that they're going to go much, much higher. And as a result of them going much higher, they typically don't seem to be as loud just because they're a lot further away than the mortars are. But these do have a nice display to them, and they go incredibly high. And some of them are very loud. This particular one, called the smiley face rocket, actually produces a smiley face when it breaks. So it's kind of a neat little effect. It's not just a typical explosion where we see like maybe a palm or a peony or something along those lines. It's actually going to show a shape of a face, which some people like. Now, this particular rocket here, which is a fairly large rocket, actually has a parachute in it. This would be a daytime rocket. Now, if you look right here on the label, it says daytime or day item. All right, and that should give you an idea that this is something you can shoot during the day, and this particular one's going to have a large parachute and then a cardboard tube that basically weights the parachute so that it comes down to the ground. Kids love chasing these. This is a good one to do maybe just before the sun goes down. It kind of gets people ready for the show that you're going to put on, and it gives them the kids something to chase after. This would be definitely a firework that you'd want to use if you have a nice big open area, big open field. If you've got trees in the area, based on Murphy's Law, I can almost guarantee you it's going to get tangled up in the trees or power lines or anything like that. So you want to be cautious about that. These are going to go very high, and that parachute's going to be way up there. So depending on how big of an area you have, you may or may not be able to retrieve that parachute, but it is kind of a cool effect. Now let's take a look at this one here, the Mercenary. Now if we look at the difference between the firework ball in the Mercenary pack versus the firework ball in the smiley face pack, we can see a very big distinction between the size. This is a much bigger firework. It's going to have a much bigger display, and because it's a bigger rocket, we can even look at the charge that's going to send this rocket in the air is much bigger than this charge is here. Which means that this rocket here, the Mercenary rocket, is going to go much higher, and based on the size of this firework, is going to be much larger than something like this. Now, I happen to know for a fact that this one is very loud. It's got a very large report on it. It's going to have some color on it, but based on how high it goes and based on the size of the report on this one is going to outweigh the display that it may have. But it basically works like a mortar that's primarily a salute, where it's going to go up in the air and you're going to have a great big boom. Now, we even have rockets. We look at the ambushed here, and we sell these in packs of 5. This ambushed here, if you look at the size of that firework, here's our charge right here. This is what's going to send that rocket in the air, and then this is the firework itself. So if we look at this particular rocket, this rocket is huge. This is a very large rocket. It's going to have a very big display on it, very, very similar to a mortar, but it's going to go much, much higher than a mortar is going to go. It's going to go much higher than one of these types of fireworks, just because of the size of the charge that's on the back end of this. So this is a very, very large rocket. So as you can see, we have a wide variety of rockets that you can choose from here. Now, in terms of launching off these big rockets, a lot of people ask, well, what can you put these rockets into? Traditionally, the best thing you can do for these large rockets would be either a PVC or a steel pipe. Sometimes our rocket packs come with a tube, like if we look here at the smiley face rocket here, this is a plastic tube right here that's got a pointed end on it. You can stick that in the ground, and then you can use that as your launching tube. I know people who have taken 5-gallon buckets of sand, and they'll stick the stick down in the 5 buckets of sand. You don't want to wedge it in real tight, but have it in there so that it's nice and firm. It's not going to tip on you, and then that rocket can take off right out of the sand. I know people who have made metal tubes or had steel tubes that they've used. Again, PVC pipe works really well. You just kind of cut it at an angle. You can tap that right into the ground. Those tend to work the best for these types of rockets. For the smaller rockets, these 8-ounce rockets, the cluster Bs, the traditional bottle rockets, any kind of bottle really works well. Again, weighting down the bottle or weighting down the can typically works the best. You can shoot these out of PVC pipes as well. That's not going to affect any of the performance at all. But those are some of the ideas or options you can do when you're launching rockets. A lot of times people will use rockets as a supplement to their show. It gives them something a little bit higher, a little bit different effect, and like in the case of the mercenary rockets right here, you have a lot more noise. So that's a little bit about rockets and how rockets work, what you can launch them out of, what the size differences mean, some of the disclaimers to watch out for in terms of a daytime rocket versus a nighttime rocket, and different effects that these rockets will have. So hopefully you can use these in your show. A lot of people like to use these as a differentiation between mortars or cakes. They go a lot higher. Sometimes they're a little bit louder. And in the case of like the parachute rockets, you can do these during the day as well. So there's some ideas for you for your show. Throw some rockets in there, and people really enjoy that. This is Brad from Albion Fireworks, and remember, if I'm running, you better keep up.